Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are slowly peeling back the layers of a truly terrifying viral internet account. We're going to be following a man named Daniel into a deeply unsettling experience. Now, this isn't just your standard ghost story. It's a fascinating look at how psychological tension is built, and honestly, what happens when the absolute deepest fears of the dark come knocking right at your front door.
I want you to just sit with that sound for a second. Knock, knock, knock. Really think about the cadence of it. It's a slow, heavy, deliberate sound just cutting through the dead silence of the middle of the night. This rhythm, it's literally the pulsing heartbeat of this entire internet myth. It's this profound auditory dread that taps directly into our primal instincts. When we hear that specific rhythm in the dead of night, our brain immediately sends up red flags, telling us something is very, very wrong.
So, I want to ask you directly. Put yourself in Daniel's shoes right now. You're completely alone in a new place. It is exactly 3 a.m. The entire world is asleep. What goes through your mind when you hear that sound echoing down a dark, empty hallway? Do you just ignore it? Or do you give in to that fatal human curiosity and actually answer it? Well, Daniel, as we're about to see in this account, made a choice that quite literally shattered his reality.
Part 1. The Cheap Apartment and the Warning.
You know how every good cautionary tale starts, right? With a setup that feels just a little too good to be true. So Daniel gets a new job and moves into this surprisingly cheap apartment on the outskirts of town. He's totally thrilled about the bargain, completely oblivious to the unseen cost. When the landlord was handing over the keys, he didn't just casually mention the trash schedule or whatever. He smiled nervously, leaned in, and whispered this exact warning. And Daniel, he laughed it off. He thought it was just a weird joke. But the landlord didn't laugh back. The rules were clearly stated, and the countdown had officially begun.
Part 2. The first night, 3 a.m. strikes.
Well, that initial skepticism evaporates on the very first night. The peaceful illusion of his new life completely shatters, and the atmosphere just turns suffocating. Let's actually track how quickly this escalates, because it builds minute by excruciating minute. At exactly 2:59 a.m., his phone buzzes, just a precursor. Then, exactly at 3 a.m., the slow, heavy knocks begin. But when Daniel checks the peephole, the hallway is completely empty. He tries to rationalize it, maybe it's just some kids pulling a prank. But then, at 3:01 a.m., an unknown number calls. A terrified voice whispers, "Whatever you do, don't open the door," right before disconnecting. The threat isn't just outside anymore. It has literally invaded his phone, his one safe space.
Part 3. Voices in the Dark.
And what's really fascinating and deeply disturbing is how the entity shifts its strategy here. It turns into absolute psychological warfare. The knocking escalates into violent bangs. Daniel watches a shadow slowly crawl across the hallway ceiling through the peephole, but there is absolutely no one standing there to cast it. Then comes the emotional bait. He hears the voice of a crying, lost child begging for help. And then, it suddenly shifts into the exact voice of Daniel's mother, who had passed away 3 years prior. Every breath, every pause was perfectly hers. But the horrifying reality bleeds through. The child's cry suddenly drops into this deep, unnatural voice demanding, "Daniel, open the door!" And that perfect replica of his mother's voice, it ends in a terrifying laugh. It wasn't her. It was just something wearing her voice as a disguise.
Part 4. The Peephole Breach. This emotional whiplash completely pushes Daniel over the edge. Against every single shred of his better judgment, he makes a fatal mistake. He approaches the door to check the peephole one last time, breaking the psychological barrier of his safe room. And I really want you to picture the sheer, rapid-fire panic of what he sees through that tiny glass lens. He doesn't see an empty hallway this time. He sees a pale face staring directly back at him, an impossibly wide smile stretching across its features. Completely deeply black eyes, just pressed against the door waiting for him to look.
And then, without even moving its impossibly wide lips, the creature just whispers this sentence right into his mind. "I can see you." The sheer force of this entity's presence is so strong that the physical world actually begins to buckle. The peephole cracks, hairline fractures spread rapidly across the glass, and the creature just smiles wider. The barrier is officially broken.
Part 5. The Impossible Escape.
Instantly, the knocking at the front door stops, but Daniel's suffocating relief is a total trap. The silence is shattered by 3 new knocks,
coming from inside his bedroom closet. Let's break down this terrifying climax. First, every single light goes out, and the closet door slowly creaks open. Second, an impossibly tall figure unfolds from the absolute darkness. Third, Daniel actually hears its joints violently snapping as it stands up, its head literally scraping the apartment ceiling. Finally, it whispers, "You answered." Now I have to ask you, in this moment of pure, paralyzing horror, would you have stopped to grab your keys or your wallet? Of course not. And Daniel didn't either. He just sprinted blindly for his life.
He's sprinting down the hallway, and he realizes every single apartment door is wide open, and every room is completely empty. The whole building is deserted, except for one old woman standing calmly in the corridor. She looks at him and delivers this chilling line. "You opened it, didn't you?" "I'm sorry." Then she closes her eyes, sealing his fate. And right on cue, Daniel hears dozens of footsteps behind him. But here's the worst part. They aren't running. They are walking, slowly, patiently, with the absolute certainty that they are going to catch him.
Part 6. A permanent haunting.
The immediate aftermath leaves us with some truly terrifying questions. The police found Daniel hours later, completely unconscious several streets away. But when they searched his unit, they found absolutely nothing. No forced entry, no footprints, no broken windows. Nothing. Yet, there is a crucial detail that ties this entire curse together, and it's the number 3. It happens at 3 a.m. It's signaled by 3 knocks. His mother had been dead for 3 years. And you want to know the most horrifying detail the police actually found? On the inside of Daniel's front door, there were 3 deep scratch marks, exactly where something had been desperately trying to get his attention from the hallway, only to end up inside.
Daniel moved away, changed cities, tried to build a totally different life. But this explainer wouldn't be complete without looking at his new reality. Every single night, at exactly 3 a.m., he wakes up to the sound of 3 knocks. He never, ever answers them anymore. Which brings us to the final, most unsettling takeaway from this whole account. If you wake up tonight, in the dead of winter, and hear 3 slow, deliberate knocks echoing in the dark, before you even think about checking the door, ask yourself, are you entirely sure it isn't already inside?